good evening. Thank you for joining me once again on 89.5 FM in Klamath Falls to listen to The Garden with your gardener, Bree. That's me. On the show, I'm on every Monday night from 8 to 9 p.m. trying to discuss topics of truth and beauty. Tonight, I have a topic that is very truthful and very beautiful. I'm just going to go ahead and segue off of Mother's Day yesterday, Sunday, and talk about motherhood and more specifically about child rearing. Since there's such a trend in the modern world right now to not want kids and not like kids and to talk about how horrible it is to have kids, I thought I would start off talking about why it's great to have kids. Now, you might have heard this analogy before when talking about marriage, but one of the best reasons to have kids, in my opinion, is because it makes you a better person. It really does. It really shapes you. I was thinking about, because I wanted to talk about, like I said, about motherhood and child rearing. And I'm going to talk about 5 common mistakes that I think parents make. Now, but if I phrase it that way in the negative, it sounds like I'm trying to say that I have done everything right, which I certainly have not, and I would never, ever want to make that claim. So as I was pondering that, I was thinking about, talking about some of my failings and my shortcomings as a parent, and they are many, my failings and shortcomings. They are many. But I was thinking about how some of those failings and shortcomings are really character flaws that I would not have recognized in myself if I didn't have kids. When you get married and you suddenly have to a commitment to care for another person and to put another person ahead of yourself for the rest of your life, gasp, you find your character flaws for sure. You find your impatience and you find your selfishness. But then when you have kids, it's a whole nother level. It's a whole nother level of finding out that you're selfish. It's a whole nother level of finding out that you have a short temper, that you're all of these things that you didn't recognize previously in yourself. But getting that opportunity to grow, although it's painful, and although at times it feels like at the expense of a little person, is really a priceless opportunity. Now, something that I don't always talk about, or maybe I do to let people know, I never really wanted to have kids. I'm a typical kind of 90s woman who just thought, I don't really need that. I would be totally satisfied never to have them. And I got married in my late 20s. And when I got married, I was in full-time ministry, living in Europe, and just really enjoying the constant activity, the constant going, the fulfillment of being in ministry. It was a really, really great time in my life. And I did not have an aching hole inside of me like, oh gosh, I need to have a baby. I did not have baby fever. I did not. Now I know that I didn't know how much hard work it was going to be to have kids. But I also, on some level, knew it was going to be a lot of hard work. And that was part of the reason that I did not want to have them. But even though I thought I knew how much hard work it was going to be, my perception was way off, definitely way, way off. In any event, my husband did want to have kids. And I remember realizing that I hadn't said when we were dating, when we were getting married and in our early marriage, I had never said to him, I don't want to have kids. I'm fine as it is. I don't know why I didn't say that. It just, it doesn't come up in the vows. When we did our premarital counseling, we talked about sex, finances, and communication, as you do. We didn't talk about whether or not we wanted to have kids. So I realized that it would be completely unfair of me to say to my husband, now that he's linked to me for life, for better or for worse, oh, and by the way, also you never get to be a dad because I never want to have kids. So we have kids. We have 3 children. We have twin boys and a little girl. And when I found out I was having twins, it felt like a cosmic joke against me. It really felt like it. I didn't really want kids. Then when I knew we were going to have kids and try to get pregnant, I imagined myself with this little baby strapped to me in the streets, doing what I had always done, being busy with my ministry, running all over town. And when the doctor said to me, here's baby A and here's baby B, all of those images went up in smoke. No, now it's a double wide stroller. I didn't have a car. We had never had a car. A double wide stroller on the underground in the shopping centers. And also, the reality living in a big European city is that most people live in small apartments. And I didn't know it immediately on the ultrasound, but it came to pass that people do not want you to bring your let's say 1.5 to 4-year-old twins into their small apartment. It's too much. And I did not want to take my twins into those small apartments. So when I had those twins, I felt like my life effectively came to an end. Then it was me and them. And then, that really felt like a cosmic joke. Though I never wanted to be a mom. And here I was, stuck at home with these baby twins all the time. And also, it might be a little hard for an American to fathom, but even at church in Germany, most of the churches that I knew of didn't have childcare. So you'd bring your child, they don't have nurseries, you'd have to bring your child into the church service with you. So if you have twins, there's just no point in going because you have to hold one and your husband has to hold one. You don't get to rotate. You don't get to say, this is your week with the baby, next week is my week with the baby. Essentially, you can't participate in the service or glean anything at all. So you might as well just stay home. So it's hard to maybe fully grasp how it felt that my life came to an end, but I really felt that my life came to an end at that point. And those first years with those little twins were so hard for me. I really struggled up and down with my emotions and my feelings and and also I remember when I first realized you never get to sleep in again. It's over. You don't get to take a day off. You don't get to say, yesterday was a busy day. Thank God it's Saturday. I'm going to sleep in. It never ends. Once they come or he or she comes, it doesn't end. I just remember that sort of dawning on me. Probably I was mega exhausted from having twins, dawning on me and just thinking, oh my word. But all that said, I love my children. I wouldn't trade them for anything. I wouldn't go back. I think what a silly person I was that I didn't realize how fabulous it was going to be to have kids. And one of the biggest reasons is because when you become a parent and you have kids, aspects of life that had grown stale become fresh again. As you experience things through your children's eyes and they're experiencing them for the first time. And for kids, things are the first time over and over and over again. Because they might have had their first snow, say, when they were 1, but they don't remember it, so they get the thrill again when they're 2. Then they get the thrill again when they're 3. Then because they're children, they're just plain old excited. It's thrilling again at 4, 5, 6. And so you, for whom snow has become just a mundane thing, you get the thrill of snow again with your children. And that is true across the board about so many different parts of life that are just so la whatever. They become funny, they become interesting, they become exciting, again, because they're funny and interesting and exciting to your kids. And that is, that's just huge. There's nothing, you can't pay for that. There's no drug that can give you that. You only get to have that experience because of the hard work and the great effort of choosing to raise children. And then, like I said, you also get the character growth, which is the hard part of it. But knowing that you're growing, that you're being expanded as a person, that your character's being chiseled away at, that you're being pushed to your limits and beyond, because you're caring for little humans, is a huge benefit. Again, you can't pay a therapist for that. You can't. You can only get it because of the great gift of kids, which comes to you for free. So those are some of the great things about having kids. And then finally, the fact that you just love them, period. You just do. You love your kids. If you're a healthy person. I know there's people who probably don't. But in general, a normal, kind of healthy, even an unhealthy person, in general, you just love your kids. And that experience of love, even though the kid hasn't done anything, even though they're a terror most of the time, But your great love and affection and attachment to them is such a wonderful picture of God that, again, you get this expanding of your understanding who God is, how he can love you, how he could be long-suffering with the Israelis, long-suffering with me, myself. You can't get that just from data. Maybe you can. I'm sure God can teach it to you in different ways, but gosh, he teaches it to you fast and strong when you have kids. But also, love is a beautiful thing. And to love, to be in love, to have love returned to you is a wonderful, wonderful thing. And you get that in bucket loads and heaps and mountains when you have little children who just want to put their face close to you, schnoozle up to you, who I think... I just heard, it was Dr. Phil, actually. I just heard Dr. Phil say, however kids may act, whatever age they might be, however, surly or rebellious or whatever they might be, when they're those little children, let's say under 14, they really think that you make the sunrise in the morning. For them, you are the morning sunrise. So to have someone who you love unconditionally, who loves you back unconditionally, I mean, that's just a fabulous experience. So if you're on the fence about having kids like I was, or selfishly you don't want to do it because of those early mornings, don't be ridiculous. Just do it. Also, they were saying when we had our twins, whoever they are, they always give these projections on how much it costs to raise a kid, right? It costs so much money. And so then I heard, we're having twins. I nearly, I had, ye of little faith. I had no faith to have enough money for everything that we would need for having two little babies. And my husband barely earned any money. We were really well below the poverty line. And a man said to me, God will provide everything you need. And let me tell you, he has. Not only has he provided everything I needed for those boys, but abundantly for those two boys. I'm going to say what he's provided for my twins has been more than what he's provided for my little girl. But I feel like he's saying, see, everything. I can't even tell you. In doubles, 2 bikes, mountains of clothes that were given to me when they were 3 that I brought here from Germany. I still have bags of them, brand new, untouched clothes that I'm saving for when they'll grow into them. Food, just everything. Everything has been provided for them. So money has never been an issue. We have never earned a lot of money. We have always been at or below the poverty line, and we have lived richly and fully, depriving our kids of nothing. And so if money's your reason, that's also not a good reason. God will provide. Children are a gift, the Bible says. God will provide. So now I've gone on and on and on, and I haven't even announced. I have my mother on the air with me tonight. Hello. Hello.
I'm here.
She's here. We had a nice Mother's Day. We fulfilled our long goal since we've been in Klamath Falls of getting ourselves 2 blow-up kayaks. We went for the blow-up kayaks. 1, because money is always a consideration for us. And 2, because you don't have to carry them on top of your car. You can just put them in your trunk, which is great. So we went to Spring Creek. And we wanted to go, I had wanted to go to the headwaters because I had just something that I enjoy doing, especially when I'm in a new place, is I just love scanning the Google map. I just zoom in and I just go north, south, east, and west. And I look like minutely at all the little things and try to find something interesting. And so what I found that was interesting not long ago was the Spring Creek headwaters. And I've never been to a place where a creek, or to me I would call it a river of that size, just springs out from the ground. So I really, really wanted to see that. And I had seen Spring Creek and saw how beautiful the turquoise clear waters were. So we drove out there. We made a mistake. We should have just gone to the simple parking spot right off of Highway 97 and gone ahead and kayaked up to the headwaters. But I just looked at the Google map and I was like, let's go there to the head. So we drove 7 miles on old logging roads in the dust, up and down very treacherous hills to get to the headwaters where we parked, and then we launched from there. But we had a really nice day, and I am so thankful to have a mom who I can enjoy her company, and that we could just go out together and have have fun, and it's relaxed and it's easy and it's nice and we're friends. I sure hope that my little daughter will be my friend someday.
And I'm thankful to have a daughter that's my friend that I can have fun with. Yes.
It's awesome, right?
Yes.
Yeah. So we had a picnic and we kayaked and it was great, and now we're dying for our next kayak adventure. It's all, and thankful to have a husband who let me do it too. So thank you to my Tilo. All right, I'm going to go ahead and say the text message hotline number for the studio here, because we're going to talk about 5 common mistakes of child rearing. And I would love for anybody with a thought or an opinion on any of these topics to give me a text message. So the phone number is 541-937-5832 if you want to weigh in. And then if you want to drop me an email anytime during the week, I'll try to check it. I think I didn't check it last week, but no one ever writes me. But if you want to write me an email, my email address is bree@diverse, DIVERSE, break, BREAK, through, THROUGH.com. That's bree@diversebreakthrough.com. Send me an email or send us a text message here in the studio, 541-937-5832. And we'll probably read it on the air. Unless it's very rude, then we'll just send you a nice message back. Okay, so I have written down these 5 mistakes. I actually wrote them down a long time ago. And I wanted to do a different kind of show, more of a debatey kind of show, but it just hasn't worked out that way. So I'm just going to kind of go through them, and I'm going to talk about my opinions and talk about my thoughts. Once again, fully aware that I am not perfect and that I haven't been a parent for very, very long. So I can't speak to the results of this. One time before my husband and I got married, we went to a marriage seminar where they had a couple teaching who had been married for like 6 months. And I just remember thinking, what do you have to say? You've only been married for 6 months. So maybe I was so judgmental of them that I've silenced my own tongue, but I never want to ever, appear to know more than I know. I'm just a novice. I'm a child raising children, as my mom says. My little ones are still little. It could go either way with them. So anyway.
But I'm just going to put in, I was just thinking, but your age is a help. You're older, you're more mature, you've experienced life. And I just tell her, all the time, I think she's a much better parent than I ever was. But part of that could be because I was pretty young and she's more mature when she had kids.
I am mature. I'm the oldest mom of young children in my homeschooling group. Not the oldest mom, but the oldest with the youngest kids. Anyway, okay, so I'm just going to dive right in. So my first one is, the first mistake I think that Western American Christian parents often make with kids is teaching morals without teaching the Bible. And by that I mean teaching morals without presenting children with the authority of the Bible. And I think that's important because at some point, if you teach kids, you should do this, you should not do that, this is what it means to be good. If you teach a whole entire society of kids that, then a whole entire society of adults is going to say, who says? Why? On whose authority? Where did you get that from? What are you talking about? So it's so important from a young age that kids understand the reason that we believe this is because it says so in the Bible. And I don't know why 90s parents had, I think, a penchant for not saying that. I don't know why you would not say it. Maybe because everyone was afraid of being religious. I don't know. But it seems like there was this whole generation of people who were taught their shoulds and should nots without being presented with the Bible, which is the reason we believe in these shoulds and should nots. Now, we could get philosophical here. Yes, the law is written on the hearts of men. C.S. Lewis says, if someone comes and steals your orange, and you only had that one orange, you're going to be mad. No one needs to tell you, yeah, that's because stealing is wrong. You know it. You just do know it because you're a human, because the law is written on your heart. So to some extent, yeah, we don't necessarily need the Bible to have an understanding of right and wrong. We know it inherently. It's been built into the fabric of our nature. We're human beings. We know how we want to be treated. But that only goes so far. It really only goes so far. If you have kids, you know, they come out of the womb kicking and screaming. They come out willful. One of the youth pastors at my church just said, you don't have to teach a child to lie. They know how to lie. You don't have to present the whole framework to them. This is what a lie is. It's not telling you. They'll tell you a lie. They just do it automatically at some point in their lives. So that's who we are as human beings. We lie automatically. We want our own way automatically. And so we do need to be told and need to understand that there is a higher authority who has handed down the guidebook, the roadmap, the rules, if you will, the right and wrong. And we need to understand, children need to understand why we believe that. And then along with that, I think it's right to do some apologetics with your kids. It is such a nuanced world. Everything in society, in the world, is going to tell them that you are crazy if you're a Christian parent. We're not living in the United States of the 40s and 50s anymore. We are far, 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 far away from that. So it's not like, oh, we're in a Christian society, so we can trust that our kids will grow up. That's not the place that we're in. And I imagine some fiery radical preachers, even of that time, would be saying exactly what I'm saying now. True born-again Christians will always have understood this. And I'm not saying if you don't get it that you're not truly born again, but it is possible to be a cultural Christian. So I think it's important, moms and dads, to do some apologetics with your kids and to tell them, why do you believe the Bible is true? Why do you believe the Bible is the Word of God? Why do you believe it is worth teaching to them and handing it down as a guidebook for society? Is it blind faith, or is there something that you could teach them about the Bible, about Jesus, to back up their faith, something that they can stand on? Do you want to say anything on this point?
No, really good. Keep on.
Okay. Do you disagree with anything up to this point?
No.
Okay. I'm going to go ahead and say that text number again. If you want to weigh in yourself, the phone number is 541-937-5832. So, my first big mistake was teaching children morals without teaching them where we get them from, and that is the authority of the Bible. And then one more step away along with that is not explaining to them why we believe the Bible is the truth and why we choose to make it our authority. Because in this world, everyone's going to laugh at them, point a finger at them, and tell them they're crazy. They need to have a couple of tools in their tool belt to be able to educatedly respond to people why they believe what they believe. Yes, it is impossible to please God without faith, and if they truly give their lives to Christ, then they will have faith. No reason not to give them some facts as well to go along with their faith. So, once again, I think you should get your kids the book Evidence That Demands a Verdict by Lee Strobel. The Case for Faith. No, that's Lee Strobel. Who wrote Evidence That Demands a Verdict?
Oh, that's Josh McDowell.
Josh McDowell. The Case for Faith, The Case for Easter, The Case for Christ, Lee Strobel. Mere Christianity by C.S. Lewis. And I'm sure there's a whole bunch more. Jesus Among the Other Gods by Ravi Zacharias. And you should read with your kids. Do you know that I'm going on a little segue here, but do you know that studies show that 13 and 14-year-olds, I don't have the exact percentage, but it was more than half. It was like a high amount of them still say they wish their parents would read with them, or They wish that their parents would help guide them in choosing books, give them some ideas and examples. So read with your kids, read with them until they're 15 years old and they're too busy. Read with them when they're 13. Give them these books, go through it with them. Take the time to educate your kids on their faith.
Amen.
It's important. They will not be able to stand without it, number one. And number two, yes, there are some kids who will find those things on their own, but most of the kids won't do it on their own. You need to do it for them. So don't teach your kids morals without teaching them where those morals are found in the holy book, and do teach them why we believe that the book is holy, the Bible. That's my first mistake. Number two, and this goes along with the read with your kids. I think I just heard, again, this was from Dr. Phil, but this really resonated with me. You're going to tell me what you think about this now that you've raised your kids. And anyway, Dr. Phil said, as a society, I'm paraphrasing what he said, this isn't a quote, but basically what he said was, as a society, we have tried to prioritize quality time. We've tried to say, oh, we're going to create these quality experiences with our kids. We're going to do these big, amazing things or have these big, amazing topics. It's going to be super quality. But Dr. Phil said he thinks we should prioritize quantity of time and not worry about the quality. That really resounded with me, because if you're only prioritizing those big bang, big money for your bucks experiences with your kids, they could be few and far between. Mm-hmm. They could be few and far between. You know, your kids just want to spend time with you. Mm-hmm. They don't care. The kids aren't worried about quality. They don't even know what that means. Yeah, they're going to like going to some theme park. Sure, of course they will. But how much does that trip to the theme park mean if you didn't spend any time with them for the last 3 months? If you just sit and watch TV through dinner time every night, you're busy, you're cooking, cleaning, you've got programs, whatever, at church. Even church can get in the way a little bit. But kids need a quantity of time. So if you make one great effort as a parent, quantity of time, spending lots and lots and lots of time with your kids, even if it's just sitting and watching your littles do their Legos, right? Talking to them about it, reading them those books at night. I don't know, sitting and having a conversation at dinner time. All of those moments that you have add up, and they mean something, and they're important to your children. Do you want to say anything about that?
Yeah, that's really good. My mom was a stay-at-home mom, and I was a stay-at-home mom. And I think I knew that back then, because that was the time period when all the women were going to work. So that started, it doesn't matter if you're working, it's the quality, not the quantity. And so I remember knowing intuitively that was a lie. And the other thing, like, I think you said it, but if you only have the quality, you're not living life with them. You're just it's just basically fun. You're not walking with their failures and their mistakes, or they're not watching you make failures and mistakes. And there's so much learning that goes on in the quantity of time versus the quality.
That's so true. And that's something that you really learn as a homeschool mom. Because you are not going to sit and do 6 hours of school every day with your kids like they would get in the public school. But you learn that there's so much value in the day-to-day activities. Mm-hmm. There's so much value in your kids cooking with you, and your kids seeing you pay bills. Mm-hmm. Now, of course, my little kids don't ask me questions about that. But as they get older, they will, and they're going to learn, oh, this is what life is like for an adult. You pay your bills, you do your taxes, you cook dinner, you clean relentlessly, and all of that is super good and so necessary, especially when we live in this world. I mean, the internet world, where you get these delusions about what life is.
Mm-hmm. That's right.
Coming at you from all sides.
That's right.
Delusions. So quantity time over quality time. If you want to weigh in, please send us a text message at 541-937-5832. All right, so my next one, and this is one that you might really have to chew on. I don't know, or maybe it'll be clear. My next mistake I think that parents often make, and that I think I would make, or am on the verge of making, I have to remind myself not to do this, is teaching children to practice good behavior apart from Christ, or without a relationship with Christ. Just teaching good behavior. And the thing is that if you do this to your kids, you're basically setting them up for failure, because we just can't practice good behavior without Christ. He's the one we can grit our teeth and knuckle down and meditate and try really hard. But ultimately, Christ is the one that comes in and refines us, makes us more like him, gives us joy, makes these things less of a teeth clenching exercise that takes us out of it and more into a joy. So something that that always has stayed in my mind was my husband Tilo has a mentor. His name is Heiko. He lives in South Carolina. I'm sure he's never going to hear this, but I wish he would so I could honor him. But he was a missionary to Germany with his wife Kay, who sadly passed away last year, and was the first pastor that my husband ever had, through whom he became born again. And so when we lived in North Carolina for a year, it was the first time that I was ever able to get to know this man and meet him and know him. And he's just a lovely, lovely man. And my husband and I went out to dinner with him, and this man, Heiko, he raised 3 boys who are now adults. And I just dread the teenage phase with boys. I absolutely dread it. I don't want to think about having teenage boys. I'm going to have 2 of them all, who are the same age, who are probably going to gang up against me and be a formidable team. So I asked this man, this Heiko, he's a pastor, what do you do with teenage boys? How do you teach them not to go out and get girls pregnant? How do you stop them from acting on all of their impulses? How do you hammer it into them to, be good people and practice good behavior? How do you inspire them towards holiness? And he just kind of looked at me. He kind of looked blank, and he said, I don't think you worry about that. I think you teach them to have a relationship with Christ, and you teach them that Christ loves them, that Christ wants to know them, and that Christ is forgiving. And oh man, I almost want to say it was like a slap in the face, because I know that. I know what's important is a relationship with Christ. I know it's never about our performance. I know we don't earn his love, earn his forgiveness. We don't earn our salvation through our good behavior. Okay, but I want my kids to make good choices. Mm-hmm. Okay, but why would they do that apart from Christ?
Yeah.
Why would they do that apart from Christ? What do I really want? I really want, number 1, for them to be born again and to have eternal life in heaven. Number 2, I want them to press into God so hard that they do become Christ-like. Then what do I have to worry about then? I don't have to worry about anything. Mm-hmm. Even if they do make a horrible mistake, I'm listing over the mistakes in my mind. I'm not going to say them. Even if they do make a horrible mistake at age 14 or 15 or 16, I still wouldn't have to worry, because they would know Christ, and he would be with them, and he would turn it all to the good, and he would be refining them. So, I needed that reminder.
Yeah.
You cannot teach good behavior, but you can teach relationship with Christ.
That's really good. I remember when my kids were in junior high or high school and having these other Christian parents, and all of them that I knew at that time, all they talked about was good grades. You got to go to college. You got to get a good job. And that was the Christian parents. And I remember thinking, well, they could get really good grades, go to college, get a good job, but if they don't know Jesus, what's the point? So, that's not really morals, but to me, that's another side of the coin, whether you're stressing a relationship with Christ or a successful life, and that is how I felt. To me, like Brianna just said, all that mattered was they know Jesus, they're born again. And even if they don't know Jesus, that's still your heart. So they reject Jesus. Then you're praying for them to have a relationship with Jesus, and you're loving them, and all those things, but not stressing, to me, the American dream, the good life. So
yeah, that's a little bit of a different topic, but I absolutely agree. I mean, yeah. So many people would say, well, my kids are happy. Well, who cares if they're happy if they're going to burn in hell?
Yeah.
I mean, it really doesn't matter.
Yes.
Who cares what level of success they reached if at the moment that they die, they're going to be separate forever?
That's right.
I mean, come on. What really matters?
Yeah.
There's only one thing that really matters, and that is Christ.
Amen.
And yeah, you teach your kids. Of course you teach them good behavior. I kind of phrased that badly. Of course you do. But as a parent, you don't stress out about it. You don't stress out about it. And you don't teach it. You don't teach good behavior more than you teach know Christ. Know Christ. He loves you. He died for you. You got to know Christ. You just don't do, and you practice it in your own life too, because it's no good if you're not practicing it. Okay, so those are my first two. Then my third common mistake that I think parents make, and this is one where my mom and I have had some disagreements, but I think we're on the same page, is teaching children and especially teenagers, that good behavior will result in happiness and a great life. It's just not true. It might. Okay. There's an element of truth in that. There's an element of truth there. That when you're making smart decisions, yeah, your life probably is going to be better. Obviously, if you have a job and you're paying your bills and you married someone stable, your life is going to be better than if you don't do all of those things and you marry a drug addict and you et cetera, et cetera. Like it's just wisdom and common sense, right? But sometimes you can make all the right choices. You can marry a Christian from your Bible college, and he ditches you anyways, in 5 years. Like, you can, I'm thinking about the pure, I always think about those, not that the purity ring is wrong, or like I Kissed Dating Goodbye. You could take I Kissed Dating Goodbye and absolutely make it a religion. I didn't date anybody. I was only out with groups. Courtship. And you still are going to have 50% of those marriages fail. That's just a fact. Like, there's no rule or law or regulation that you can follow to guarantee anything actually in your life. And so if you teach kids that the reason that they're exercising good behavior is to have a good outcome, as soon as they don't have a good outcome, they're going to doubt their faith. They're going to think, they are going to look back and they're going to go, whoa, why am I a Christian? What's this all about? I was told that if I did all of these things right, it would go well with me. It's not going well. So obviously that's a false faith. That is not what we want to teach our kids. We want to teach our kids, once again, go back to Christ. We want to teach our kids that they are sinners, like we all are, that Christ loves them, died for them, took their sin, and that a holy God wants a relationship with them. That is what we want to teach our kids. Because if you think that the Apostle Paul was always happy or felt like he had a great outcome to his life when he was shipwrecked, when he was beaten, when he was imprisoned, when he was killed, then you haven't understood it, as I haven't understood it. Anyway, that's just what I was thinking. I remember being told all the time that not to have sex because you might not trust your husband or wife, you might not have a good bonding. But in my adult life, I look and I see that just isn't true. People who had all kinds of sex still can have happy marriages. And people who were purity can have horrible marriages. So we don't do things because we want a certain outcome. We do things or don't do them because of the fruit in our lives, because of our relationship with Christ. And if you don't make that clear to your children, the unhappy outcomes in their life will push them away from their faith. And the reason will be because they didn't understand it to begin with. They thought it was a faith to give them a happy life. That's not what this faith is. I remember Jennifer Knapp had a line in a song where she said she was waiting patiently for a faith to be faithful to her. And that's silly. Our faith isn't faithful. We're faithful to God. God is faithful to us.
Yeah.
But the practice of our religion, the religion and morals of Christianity will not be faithful to you.
Mm-hmm.
They will not be faithful to you.
Real popular Christian singer that drastically fell away from God.
So you're saying I shouldn't quote her lyrics?
No, I'm explaining. A lot of people have no idea who Jennifer Knapp is, so I was just explaining.
Oh, thank you. Anyway, did you want to input on that?
No, that was good. That was brilliant.
That was enough?
Yeah, and also people might not know I Kissed Dating Goodbye. It was a big Christian fad. I would call it a fad in the 80s.
Everyone knows it.
Do they?
It was in the 90s.
In the 90s, yeah. And even the guy that wrote the book abandoned all of what he wrote.
And his faith.
Yes,
abandoned
and his faith. Yes,
Mm-hmm.
yes.
So don't do that to your teenagers. Don't put them in a box. There's no box. There's no perfect formula. There's no perfect system. There's no perfect way to raise your kids. It's not black and white. You don't have to necessarily look at what you would consider the most perfect family in your church and copy everything that they have done.
Mm-hmm.
Every kid is different.
Mm-hmm.
Your family culture is different. Do you know that your family culture is important? It really is. It's not something we talk about a lot, but each family has a culture. Who they are, how they behave. The culture of your family is important. You don't need to abandon your culture because of what another family is doing. And you can't look, comparison is the enemy of calm. You can't look out and compare your family with other families. The best you can do is press into your relationship with Christ. Pray and pray some more, and let Him guide you as you raise your kids.
Amen.
Don't teach them all these rules in these boxes. Teach them to know Christ and model knowing Christ for them.
And there's always a new box. There's always a new fad in the Christian world.
Absolutely.
So that's such
right.
a good word.
That's right. That's right. And the religion is not going to be faithful to them. It's not. Christ is, the religion is not. And Christ being faithful means something different than having a perfect, happy life. Okay. So then my next mistake that I think parents often make, and that is so easy to make and that we all make, is not acknowledging our own sin, not modeling humility, not saying sorry. And I don't know. I mean, I think maybe this isn't such an issue now as it was. I'm kind of chewing on whether I still see this trend, but there's such a feeling, that you need to be this godly man as the head of the household, this godly woman, the authority of over your kids, that it's easy to forget to say, I'm sorry, I made a mistake. And I think kids need that, because I think something that really drives kids away or causes them to walk away is hypocrisy. Mm-hmm. I hear that story over and over again, especially from pastors' kids for whatever reason. Oh, my dad was a hypocrite. Mm-hmm. Oh, my mom. Oh, you see what she's like at home. And that's true for all of us. We're all a little worse at home than we are out in public. But you don't want your kids to feel that way about you. So you definitely want to try to be self-reflective and to say, I'm sorry. I shouldn't have done that. I repent. Look, and let them know. And here's something they need to see. They need to see you demonstrating your relationship with Christ and showing them that in all that you do, that you rely on Him. Because if you're going to be teaching your kids to rely on Christ, they need to know that you do everything in reliance on Him, that He is your strength and your motivation. And one way that you can do that is by showing them repentance and letting them know, hey, I'm a sinner. I have to repent. I tell my kids, oh, good job, you're a good boy. But I always tell them that they're sinners. And maybe I do it maybe a little too much. But I want them to know what true love is. That they are not these perfect, golden, wonderful, fabulous little children, and I love them. No, they're pretty rotten sometimes, but I love them. And God is the same way. So I need to show them that too. Yeah, I'm pretty rotten a lot of the time, but my husband still loves me, and Jesus still loves me. And I need to say I'm sorry and I can be forgiven, and there is redemption, and we can start again. And that, I think, is one of the most important things you can plant into your kids. But I don't know that you can teach it without modeling it yourself.
Good.
Do you have any thoughts on that one?
Good point. No, that's great.
Okay, that was an easy one, actually. And then finally, this is a huge mistake that we make across the board, and it's easy to make, especially in our Facebook world, and that is faking perfection in public. And that's almost like the last point. It's so silly to pretend to be perfect. It really is. Number one, we all know that no one is perfect. We know it. We're not fooled. Nobody is perfect. I don't know. You just don't benefit anybody. You don't benefit yourself. You don't benefit your kids. And you don't benefit the people who know you by pretending to have it all together all the time. You definitely don't benefit your kids. When you want to or have this need to present as the perfect family, the pressure that goes onto your children's shoulders, the performance pressure, the perfectionism, oh man, it's crippling. It will be crippling later for them in life. It really will. What is not crippling is being able to acknowledge that you're not perfect, that you still love each other, that you're still lovable even though you're not perfect, that Christ is still with you even though you're not perfect, that you're dependent on Him, that you pray. All of that will empower your children to be victorious men and women of God. But, showing up to church, pretending to be perfect, only talking about how great everything is all the time with your friends and, people outside of the house, it will just teach your kids that you're a liar, that they have to pretend, and that they have to, live in this perfectionism, which is absolutely impossible and absolutely crippling. So, oh man, if I could just shake it off of people. Come on, let's be authentic with each other. My authenticity, my acknowledgement of all the things I do wrong and all the ways I can improve, can only be an encouragement to somebody else who wants to improve in those ways. And then when I am victorious, to be able to tell it and model it, and people have seen it. Yeah, I remember you saying you were struggling with X, Y, and Z. And to be able to say, hey, wow, Christ has done this and this in me. I mean, that's hope. That's the message of hope. That brings joy. But me being perfect all the time, yeah, it benefits no one. I don't know where we got to this place where we have to pretend to be perfect in church. We have to pretend to be, I don't understand. I guess it's just a trap of Satan to keep us from, one, truly knowing each other, and two, truly empowering our kids. Because there's that stupid, I'm just going to say stupid, that stupid Lauren Daigle song. You say I am, what does she say? I'm strong. You say I'm beautiful. You say the Bible does not say that. God has never said that about you. The Bible says when you are weak, He is strong. It says He is beautiful. And when you have pressed into Christ and you become more like Him, yeah, then. But if you can't acknowledge your weaknesses, if you can't acknowledge your imperfections and your dependence upon God, then yeah, you're never going to be any of those things. You're just going to be a fake. And that's a whitewashed tomb. And frankly, no matter how much you fake it, everybody knows it. Everybody can smell it. Whitewashed tomb. Everybody can smell it. So there's no reason. Just stop it. Just stop it. That's all I have to say about that. Perfectionism, oh man, it's a trap of Satan. It's totally unnecessary. I know Gandhi said, I love your Christ, but not your Christians. Who cares? Who cares what he said? Are you saying that people should come to church and come to Christ because of how great Christians are? If that's what you're trying to peddle to the world, then you haven't understood it. Christians are not great. Everyone knows they're not great. Why would we pretend that they are great? No, we're just people who have found salvation in Christ. That's it. Okay, I think I got most of my topics out there. Okay, here's a couple of my other thoughts, though, that I've had over the years. I'm a long thinker. I will sit and chew on a thought for a very, very long time. I'm a long thinker. Okay, so one of my long thoughts is, I believe that boys need a coming of age ceremony. I'm a fan of all the Jewish stuff. I think there's something very, very valuable in the bar mitzvah. 13 years old, that's the age of manhood for the Jewish culture when they turn 13. Now, again, I think family culture is important. So, within your family culture, I think Christians can decide when they think their boys have become men. But I believe boys need a demarcation. I don't know why boys need it more than girls. I was kind of trying to ponder it. I was thinking about how their voices and their bodies change in puberty. Well, girls change too. I don't think girls change quite as much as boys do, though. The boys go from these they're called Milchbübchen in Germany. Milk boobies. I just love that phrase. Boys go from these soft little Milchbübchen who just love their mommies, and then they grow hair on their face. Their change is just so absolute. And girls, they get to stay close to their mommies. That part of them, it doesn't really, even though their bodies change, that sort of inner working of them doesn't have that dramatic shift that boys go through. So I believe boys need a demarcation. And I think that this is very visible in our culture because the culture is always trying to tell boys when they became a man. Like, you became a man when you shot your first elk. You became a man when you had sex, you had sex for the first time. And boys are going to be looking for that. They're going to spend their lives watching, if they have a dad, watching their dads, watching men on TV if they don't have a man in their life, and then watching themselves and waiting for that moment when they know I became a man. And if you don't give them that moment and tell them, you're a man, my son, my boy, they will find it themselves in a way that the world tells them, now you became a man, or they won't know and they'll be left wondering. And they also won't know what a man is because the world is, at the moment, manhood is, as you know, just a pool of gobbledygook as far as our culture is concerned. So I think every little boy needs his dad, and if he doesn't have it, I think his mom can arrange it with some good, strong Christian men to give him that ceremony and say, now you are a man. And I read something interesting about maybe the father gathering 2 or 3 godly men, maybe to go out to a big dinner and to impart, each one to part a piece of wisdom into the boy. And then that's his night. Now he's a man. You could buy him a sword. You could have him memorize scripture like they do in the bar mitzvah. They memorize it in Hebrew. It's good if they know what they're saying, but maybe have them memorize scripture. I don't know. Your family culture is your family culture. But I think chew on that idea of giving your sons an official demarcation so that you tell them what it means to be a man instead of the world telling them what it means to be a man. That's something that I have come to believe is very, very important. Finally, kids need boundaries to feel safe. It turns out kids don't feel safe if you cannot tell them no. I don't know. My mom and I were going back and forth on whether that's a big thing in this culture. I feel like people can say no. My mom's shaking her head. No, they can't say no. In Germany, they believe you shouldn't even say anything in a negative phrasing to your child. Okay, I've seen some of that here. You should, instead of saying no, don't run out into traffic. You should turn it around. Like, hey, maybe it would be more fun to stay on the sidewalk. Okay, but honestly, if your kid is about to run off the end of a dock or run into traffic, you need to be able to say no. And guess what? When your kids find out that you are strong enough to enforce those boundaries, even when they scream, even when they kick, even when they hate you, even when they don't like you anymore and they don't love you anymore, and when they find out you are the kind of person who is strong enough to keep them safe, guess what? Your kids feel safe. And guess what? They're thankful for it. And guess what? They grow into confident adults. Now, something that surprised me about being a mom, especially with the toddlers, was the amount of energy that it takes to say no to your kids. And I discovered you almost don't get to sit down because of the discipline. Because as soon as you sit down with your cup of coffee And they begin to tear pages out of your books. And you say no when they don't stop. And you think, gosh, I'd love to just figure I could get that Penguin Classic for 25 cents at the used bookstore downtown. So I'm going to sit here and drink my coffee instead of reinforcing the no. Yeah, there's so many times when it would be so much easier just to veg out and not discipline your kids. You got to force yourself to do it. Especially when they're young, you got to force yourself to do it. It's unpleasant. It's exhausting. But if you want them to trust you and to know that you are a safe person who will keep them safe, then you have to put those boundaries up. And kids love it. They will be happy, healthy people. And guess what else? They'll be able to accept a no when they're grown up. And they're not going to throw a hissy fit and temper tantrum when their boss says no, they have to work Saturday. Okay, those are my thoughts. I'd love to hear from you. Like I said, my email address is Bree, B-R-E, at diverse breakthrough, break, B-R-E-A-K, through, T-H-R-O-U-G-H, Bree at diversebreakthrough.com. Normally, I like to end all of my shows by preaching the gospel. Jesus loves you. Whatever phase you might be at in your parenting, even if you have teenagers, it is never too late to ask Christ into your life and to incorporate Christ into your family. It is never too late. You can have made many mistakes. God can redeem them all. It is never, ever too late. And then I really think it's important not to put shame on Christian parents who have kids who have turned away from God, who aren't walking with God. That's between them and God. That doesn't mean you did everything wrong. Shake off the guilt. There is no perfect parent. I have known parents who ostensibly did absolutely everything right, healthy homes, and their kids still walk away from Christ. Shake off the guilt, okay? Don't wear that. And you could do absolutely everything wrong and have a totally redeemed, born-again Christian child, like my husband's mom. So it's not about the results. It's about you in Christ, and it's about your kid in Christ, Amen. Ultimately, when they get to be a grown-up. So don't look back with angst and remorse and regret, but give everything to God. Give everything to God and trust Him and praise Him with thanksgiving. And I think that's all I got for you tonight. Thank you for listening. I did have one more thought, but I lost it now, so maybe it wasn't meant to be. Oh, I know. I was going to share a testimony. There was a young lady, and I'm hoping I can get her on the show in a couple of weeks, who was baptized at our church. And she told me something to the effect of, she'd had this really tough childhood. It was back and forth with her parents. She couldn't rely on either one. But at some point, her mom married a good man, gave her life to Christ, and straightened out. And this was at the point when the girl was already an adult. But she saw it happen. She watched her mom. And she was a drug addict. She's turned her life around. She's given her life to Christ. She's on her feet. She's raising her kids. So just to encourage you, it is never too late. You can make every mistake in the book. God can still redeem it. So be encouraged, not discouraged by my negative topic tonight. All right. Lots of love to you. I'll be back on next week, Monday night from 8 until 9 p.m. Until then, may our hearts and minds be fertile ground. I appreciate you listening. Good night, everyone.